This is When I Grow Up with Paul Glazby.
Mr. Lee Haslam.
How you doing, pal?
My old friend from the early tidy management days.
Yeah. How long ago was that? How many years? Christ.
24? 2001, that would have been, wouldn't it?
2001, yeah, something like that. Yeah. 2001. Long time ago.
Yeah. So how old are you now?
I'm 50 in 2 months.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I thought you were like a year older than me, but no, you're
No,
solid 3 years older than me.
Yeah, July the 25th, big 5-0.
Wow.
You
look good, though.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot. I've still got a bit of hair, even though it's grey.
You wind Pickles up about it.
Well, yeah. He lost his a long time ago, mate. So,
long time, yeah.
Well, although I did go through that phase, obviously, where I shaved my hair off because I wanted to be like you lot.
You know what? I went back to England. God, I'm trying to think when it would have been. Probably 10 years ago. And I'd grown my hair because obviously I had it shaved all that time.
Yeah.
And I went back and you remember Scott Cooper, don't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it was like friends of. I knew these guys, but not like sort of real well. And we're at this Christmas party, and this kid is talking to me, but you know when someone's. I thought there was something on my forehead because he's like talking to me, but looking at my forehead. I'm like, what the fuck? What is there something there? He's like, no. He's like, but look at your hairline. And I'm like, well, what about it? He's like, it's so strong. and then so these guys, they all had like, like the big quiffs and, whatever the style was, they were always doing all that. And now they're all like, they were all losing the hair. One of them had gone, he'd had to shave it because he'd lost it all. And they said to me, they're like, fucking hell, we thought you shaved your hair because you'd lost your hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, I just liked having a skinhead.
That was just the image.
So I just saved it. And then when everyone started losing it, I just thought, right, I'm coming in strong with her.
Oh, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Just as a bit of a fuck you.
Say that.
So you were obviously at Tidy when we first met. Like how did you end up sort of being at Tidy?
Long story, but well, when I left school, I mean, music was never really a thing in my life, to be honest. I enjoyed it, but I was more into like U2 and INXS and bands like that when I was at school. Yep. And then when I left school, I decided that I want to be a teacher. So I went into teacher training, did what's called a nursery nurse diploma, which meant that I could teach infant kids. Mm-hmm. And I got a job in a private school in Doncaster called Hill House. Worked there for about 4 years. But during that period, a very good friend of mine, Stuart Jones, took me to my first ever club, which was actually Love to Be in Sheffield. And I was 22 at the time, so quite a late bloomer into it all. And that kind of like was the moment that just my life just shifted, because from that night, all I wanted to do was go out clubbing every weekend, and I did, to be fair. And then obviously my mind shifted towards doing something different, and I got really bored of my job, so I actually quit my job, much to the annoyance of my parents. But when I said to them, I just wanted to be a DJ, they thought I was mad. So I had to have my tonsils taken out when I was like 22, because I'm obviously working with kids, I was getting sick all the time. So when you have your tonsils taken out at that age, it really knocks you for sick. So you have to have like 4 or 5 weeks off work. So that's when I bought my first set of decks and taught myself how to mix.
Okay.
And then you'll remember Tree, my girlfriend. Lisa, yeah. She worked in a clothes shop in Doncaster called Ziggurat, owned by a guy called Glenn. And Glenn was he was one of the promoters of a club in Doncaster. And unbeknown to me, she gave him a tape. That's how long ago it was of me playing. And he gave me my first ever gig. And that's where I actually met Johnny Dangerous, because Johnny was on the lineup as well. And he was obviously writing for M8 magazine at the time.
Right.
So,
yeah.
The stars kind of aligned a bit, really. And then from there, I just started obviously DJing quite a lot in Doncaster. I got a residency at the Doncaster Warehouse on a Saturday. I was playing at another night called Eden, which is a venue called Camelot's, where Andy Pickles used to start playing, actually, when he first started doing Jive Bunny. And a good friend of mine, Steve Longley, who's sadly no longer with us, he was working at the Music Factory at the time, but was working on the master mix side of things. So if you remember, master mix was all the pre-made mixes for more commercial DJs and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously that's where Jive Bunny came from. And he said to me, "Oh, you know, Andy Pickles is on the lookout for somebody to take on and like to teach the ropes." I was like, "Oh, right, cool. I'd be interested in that." Didn't think anything of it. Went into Eden one night, and I walked in, and behind the decks stood Andy Pickles. So he introduced me. We got on like a house on fire, and he offered me the job there and then, really, which was great. Obviously, it was kind of like being in the right place at the right time, but I didn't know anything about music production. I didn't know, you know, I knew how to DJ, obviously, but the first jobs that I did for them was obviously doing the master mixes. So doing all these pre-made mixes. Andy taught me how to do the Jive Bunny mixes and how to backbeat records and everything like that. So I got a basic understanding of the production through him. And that was, I think that was 97. Because I remember one of the first week I was there, Lisa Lashes and all those lot, they were doing I think they were just starting the Tidy Girls EP, which came out the following year.
Yep.
So it was a bit of a surreal experience, really, going from being a school teacher to then doing Jive Bunny mixes.
Yeah. And then Lisa Lashes and Anne Savage turning up. Yeah,
exactly. And obviously at that point I was going clubbing like every weekend to Sunday Central, Gay Crasher. So, you know, these people were my idols, really. So and Fergie and Ian, who you just mentioned before, you know, they were in there all the time. So it was a very surreal experience, but one that I actually loved to bits. It was great. I mean, I used to go in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't leave till 10 o'clock at night. You'd just be on it all the time. But it was such a great times and great people. And then obviously the Tidy label started to really generate and pick up, probably 98. And Simon Paul was the label manager before. And for some reason, I can't remember, he left. And Andy said, do you want to take up the job as label manager? I was like, yeah, great. But you'll have to teach me. Because I didn't know anything about the legalities and all that stuff. So I learned on the job, really. But I think they needed somebody that was very organised, because them two couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery. So, so that's where my skill set came in, I think. So yeah, but it was great times, mate.
Well, it's funny hearing you say that, because I mean, this is, you know, all the time that we spent years ago. Like, these are not conversations we ever had. Then it's funny, like, because I've had this conversation with a few people that, like, you don't sort of think about what's happening at the time. It's only as you get older and you look back and you go, oh yeah, that person did that, or that, you know, like, it's just you realize how things fit into place. But listening to what you're saying, I would have been having an almost identical experience, going to the same clubs and all that stuff. You know, I had that moment where I went, and that night, yours was Love to Be, mine was Rise in Sheffield.
I used to Rise all the time. You know, watch like Ian Ostier and all those guys. Used to love it. We used to go to Rise on a Friday, Gate Crasher on a Saturday, Sunday Central or Insomniacs on the Sunday. You know, that was your weekend, and it was literally every weekend. God knows how we did it, like, but well, I do, but but it was it was. Back then we were spoiled for choice, weren't we? I mean, I look at the scene now, and I talk to like some of the acts that I manage, and they ask me a lot of questions about what it was like back in the day, and it was like, it's just a different world, you know. Now, if you want to listen to music, you can just pick your phone up, you know, and you get or you just go onto somebody's Instagram account or whatever, SoundCloud. Back then, you know, Radio 1 probably on a Saturday night, and if you wanted to listen to music, you had to go to a club. So you know, it's a totally different world. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, everything's just too accessible now, which is good, but kind of, you know, it makes it less special, I guess, doesn't it?
I think
you know,
it
like
does. I mean, I can't remember. I think it was Einstein that said that technology will be the ruin of all men, and I kind of agree to him to a point, because I think now it's more about a popularity contest rather than musical talent a lot of the time, and it's, you know, social media is taking over. You could be the best producer in the world and write the best music in the world, but if nobody knows who you are, who gives a shit? Because nobody's going to hear it. You need the platform to be able to push your music. So it's very, very different these days, and it's a lot more challenging. And it's, you know, for an act to break through now, I would say, you know, definitely 10 times harder than it was back in our day, because you don't just have to be a DJ. Now you have to be a producer, you have to be a content creator, you know, you have to do all presenter, you have to do all these facets to your job now. Whereas back in the day, we could just go in the studio, write great music, get in the clubs and play it, and live the dream, really.
But you know how many people are listening to this though and going, "Yeah, easy for you two to say," because there's loads of people that didn't make it.
No, I suppose so. But the point is that it's just it's a lot harder now. But back in our day, the benefit now is that the monetary side is a lot bigger these days than it was back in our day. You know, you see DJs now getting 20, 30, 40 grand a show, whereas, you know, back in our day, you'd be doing club gigs for anything from 500 quid to 1,500 quid. Do you know what I mean? And it's but that's purely down to scale. But back then, you could release a vinyl and make so much more on a vinyl release than you ever will on streaming. You know, you have to streaming. If you did 1 million streams, you might make £1,000 from it, something like that. Not a vast amount of money, but that's the reality of the scene as it is now. It's just everything's moved on.
But I guess the other thing is these kids now, if they've got, you know, 500,000 followers, they're getting sponsorship deals just through the socials and stuff.
Yeah,
that's it. You know, they're making money that way.
Yeah, there's sponsorship deals. There's you know, clothing brands that'll come up to you. You know, there's loads of different stuff that can come through if you've got the platform to do it. But you know, to get that platform, particularly on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, it takes a lot of work, and you have to do it organically, because a lot of artists do try to do the whole cheating trick and just go, okay, well, let's buy some likes from here. But at the end of the day, it's all about algorithms this day. If you haven't got the organic growth, then, you know, you can have 150,000 followers, but you might only be getting 200 likes. People can see through that. So you have to do it the right way.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm out of it. I need a nap just thinking about that. But yeah, like for us, the sort of the perfect storm, you know, like when there was me, you, Mark Gray, Jez and Charlie. Who else was there? There was someone else, I'm sure. Was there someone else? I still remember when we had that meeting, we all got together. Andy and Amo got us together, and there was that, you know, like the tidy management. No, a guy that came late. He came later. Yeah, it was, but like the first core, there was definitely the ones I've just said. I thought there was someone else, but like I remember us all, you know, and Pickles was telling us, you know, this is what tidy management's going to be about. This is how you've got to represent yourself, and you know, we were all like just sat in a circle. We were like super excited. I nearly missed out on that. You remember?
Yeah.
Because I'd got someone that was looking after me, and
I was with that person before as well.
Yeah, but you'd got an understanding that when tidy management was set up, that you would obviously gravitate that way. And then, and we were doing the Insomnia album, which was supposed to be the Insomniacs album, but then that changed, and I thought I was going to get the boot. You know, I think, well, why would I be on it if Insomniacs are not involved? And Pickles got me in the office, and he's like, "No, we still want you to do it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. And then everything was moving along with tidy management, and I'm just thinking, why am I not getting asked? You know, like I didn't understand what was going on. And then and this is a good lesson for anyone that's listening, like just always speak up, because you just never know what you're going to miss out on. And I just said to Pickles, I went, mate, was there some reason why I've not been asked? He's like, well, yeah, because you're exclusive, aren't you, to Old Mate? And I'm like, no. And I remember he went, Haslam. Glazby's in.
His office now, like he used to. Yeah. I'd spoken to said person, and that was the narrative that was spoken. So, yeah, it was good. But like I say, a good lesson to always speak up and always speak your mind.
Yeah. And then it just went bananas, then, didn't it? Once we got Mark Foster. Yeah, was he's another one that had the hairstyles, isn't he? Like,
I'm doing it now though. Sure, you.
I've not seen him for a long time, but yeah, it was receding even back then when I last saw him.
Definitely.
What's he doing these days? Lovely guy, Mark, wasn't he?
Foz. He's I think he's got his own little company designing websites and stuff like that. He's coming to my 50th actually. Him, Sharpie, they're all Joe, all them lot are coming to my 50th. So it's a shame you're not over there. Actually, could have come. Would have been a good reunion for you.
Oh, that would have been good. Yeah. When is it?
July 26th is the party.
July. Yeah. I can't be there, I'm afraid, mate. But yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But I remember the night. So obviously Mark had success himself with the Trophy Twins, didn't he? Ended up on Radio 1. But I remember the night. So we had that gig. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was somewhere down on the south coast. We all went down in that minibus. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And the minibus got a flat tire. We had to put the spare that spare wheel on.
Where was it? Like
it was like Cornwall or one of those, like Torquay or something like that. And there was me, you, Foz was there, Tidy Boys, and I'm sure Rob Tessera was there as well. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, what was God, I forgot his name. The guy that Rob used to do Kiss the Funk with.
Tolly,
yeah, Glenn. Yeah, I'm sure he came down as well. And then I was sharing a room with either Foz or Adam or maybe both. And I'd gone back to the hotel, and because we all played, and I was hammered by the time I played because I was on last, or certainly towards the.
It was the monastery.
Was it the monastery?
It was the monastery because, it was. Was it part of the Tidy Vision tour? I'm pretty sure
that could be right. Yeah, and I remember Rob Tessera the next day because he said, "I don't even know how." He said, "You could hardly even stand up." He said, "But you played great." I went back to the hotel. I'd been asleep for like half an hour. And then Mark and Adam had jumped behind the bar and stole that trophy. And they came bursting in the room.
That's right. Yeah.
Like they won the FA Cup. And I because they woke me up and I went, "Shut the fuck up." And they just sheepishly put this trophy down and just like got into bed and went to sleep. But that was when the Trophy Twins were born. Like I was
very much so, I'm pretty sure that was the Tidy Vision at the monastery. Yeah, because I remember that one. Yeah. One of the very few.
What, that you can remember?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I've got a pretty vivid flashbacks of it for sure. And then the first time we ever did, well, not the first time international, it was the first time I ever came over this side of the world. It was me and you. We came to New Zealand, didn't we?
Yeah. I remember that very, very well.
And we did I think we worked out that sorry?
It was the first time that I'd been over there anyway, definitely.
Yeah, both of us. Yeah, it was like the first. And then we did the gig, but I think we worked out that we were in the air pretty much the same amount of time that we were on the ground in New Zealand because we literally landed, didn't we? We had 2 nights and then boom, we were off again, which was pretty nuts. But we didn't get any jet lag because it happened so quick. I don't think we.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I did that again. It must have been the year after or the couple of years after. I was supposed to do two gigs. And for some reason, one of them got cancelled quite late on. So I thought, well, everyone was like, I think it was a Mark said, "Do you still want to go?" And I was like, well, they didn't really want to let the other promoter down, so I just literally flew over, landed, did the gig, went back to the airport, got on the plane, and flew straight back. So
Jesus.
literally, I was only even in the country like for maybe 5 or 6 hours, and then flew back. And Amo always says to this day, "Do you remember that time you flew to New Zealand for one gig and then flew straight back?" What are you doing?
I thought you were bad enough what we did, but you topped
yeah,
it.
yeah. That used to happen all the time though. It's like, we used to go to like fly to Canada and stuff, and then fly home, and then because obviously the time distance, you'd land, it'd probably like it'd be a Monday morning, so you'd like drive up the M1, and I'd just go straight to work, or go to the office rather than going home, and it's just and then you'd be in the studio that night sometimes as well. You just went on this roll a bit, or you couldn't get off. It's like a roller coaster, wasn't it?
Well, I remember once moaning. I think I'd been to South Africa, and then from South Africa I got back. I had a couple of days. Then I went to Australia for 2 weeks and got back from Australia. And then I was heading to some America or something. I was moaning about the travel. And you remember Rachel that I was married to?
Yeah.
Her dad, like, sort of, got me in check. He's like, "You do realize you've been more places this year than I've been in my life." And he said, "Don't moan about it." He said, "Just enjoy it, because one day it's not going to happen." And I'm like,
very true.
Yeah.
So we were lucky because we did get to go to great places. Like say you mentioned South Africa there. That was probably Cape Town was probably my favorite destination to play, and it was just always amazing down.
So those guys, Jason Ringquest, do you remember?
Yeah.
So the Studio 47, because I think you played the month before I played, I think, or it might have been you, then Jez and Charlie, and then I played.
I'm not sure. It was at the gallery, wasn't it? The club.
The Studio 47 when we first went out there. Yeah, and then that closed down, and then I think the gallery was after that. But those guys, I went and played for them last year. They did like a reunion sort of thing, and so it was good to see those. Because do you remember Jason's brother? Brenton.
He actually not so long ago about it, because he said he wanted me to go down and play probably next year.
Right.
But, I mean, obviously, I've made so many friends down there. Sean, obviously, who ended up working at Tidy, Sean Martins, Sammy as well. There was, there's quite a few long-term friends who I'm still friends now that live in the UK that we met down there. So it's definitely got a special place in my heart, Cape Town, because the gigs, it was probably one of the very few places on the planet that was very much like the UK crowd in terms of how they reacted to the music and everything. It was very and obviously Australia, very that Antipodean crowd were always full on, weren't they? But then you could go. I mean, I remember playing in Shanghai, and it was just you're playing in a club, but everyone sat at tables all gambling, and it's like you might as well have just put a CD on. Do you know what I mean? It was just bizarre, isn't it? How different cultures react to music in different ways. It was always open to that. But we were very lucky, mate, because back then none of us flew business class, did they? None of us. It was all it is hard graft, all that traveling, but at the same time the gigs that we've got to play and the people that we met were phenomenal. So we are very lucky.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I remember us going to a gig in, we were playing in Scotland, but they were flying us up there. So we drove to Manchester, and we were going on the, down the, is it called the Dromfield bypass, where you head on to like the Woodhead? Yeah. And we were we were flying down this hill, and then you went, "There's a cop." So I slammed on, and by the time I slowed down, he'd already gone. So he pulled us over, and he gets me out of the car, and I didn't have any like the tax had run out as well, and I was like, I said, "Oh, it's in the post, it's in the post," and he's like, "Oh, okay, well, make sure you get it," and then he's obviously bollocking me for speeding. He's like, do you realize how many people have been killed on this road? And I went, I don't know, 100, and he's like, no, 7. I'm like, oh, it's all right.
It's not like you to be speeding, Glaz.
Well, they spoilt it now. They've got all the bloody what is it? Average speed cameras and all that. It used to be like.
I don't know if you can remember Matt, who used to drive me.
Yeah.
He's. I mean, some of the ridiculous things we used to do, like to get from gig to gig. You know, sometimes if you were doing 2 or 3 shows on a night, and you know, Foz always left it quite tight sometimes. You know, with set times, and you would literally end up doing, 100 plus sometimes just to get to a gig on time. So we were lucky that there weren't as many police on the roads, and there weren't the average speed cameras. Otherwise, we would have never got to most of the gigs that we got booked for.
Well, the Trophy Twins were in that night where I lost my license. The Trophy Twins it was Sharpie and Foz and Adam were in my car. It was in Rachel's car, that Toyota that she had, and they all fell asleep. And Foz is behind me. Obviously, Foz is about 6'2", so I've got my seat forward. I've got my knees up around my ears, and I'm doing I think the copper got me doing 100. I think it was 126 miles an hour because I'm just trying to get home.
Yeah. Well, at that time, you're knackered. It doesn't help when you've got 4 people in the car all fast asleep either.
Exactly. Yeah. So obviously we caught up recently because we've not spoken, for a long time. So there's a lot been happening in your life and mine. And you, so you mentioned Tree. What's Tree doing these days? Is she?
I'm not sure, to be honest. We broke up around the same time that I left Tidy. Actually, I think just maybe a few years before. But now she's married and she's got twins, and she's doing good. She's up in Leeds now.
Okay. Then you ended up getting married to Amber, didn't you? Obviously, the famous DJ Amber D. And you've got 2 girls.
Yes,
with Amber,
twin
right?
girls, yeah.
And then obviously, life doesn't always work out, and you are not with Amber anymore. But you told me a pretty funny story about who you are with now. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, well, me and Amber obviously we got divorced. I think it was 2011. So the law firm that I used in that process, there was a young lady that worked there that I met through divorcing Amber. We ended up getting together a few months after, and we got married. So you go into divorce one wife, and then you come out with a brand new one. So
it wasn't as much of a divorce, just more of an exchange.
Yeah, an exchange.
So this one's not working out. Can I swap it?
Yeah. But no, we've been together for 14 years, married for 10 now. We've got a little girl Anya as well, who's nearly 8. So yeah, it's funny how life works out.
It all worked out, mate. That's the main thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned before, you said obviously you left Tidy. So then how did life work out?
At that time, obviously, it was the time where vinyl was obviously starting to really nosedive. Digital was coming into the whole scene was shifting, and I'd been there, been at the Music Factory for 10 years. And just at that point needed a change. It was just after my dad passed away as well. So I think kind of like in my head, I needed to do something different.
Yeah.
So I went to work with Richard Scaife because he just got they'd basically signed the license for the Slinky brand. So I went to work with Richard, and we basically carried the events on. At that time, it wasn't in the Opera House because it had left, and it was doing some shows in like Southampton and Plymouth and a few other places like that, Portsmouth. So we started to build the brand back up, got it back into the Opera House. We were doing international tours in Australia and in Asia. Sell Slinky Radio, and just built the brand back up to where it should be, really. And I was there from 2007 to 2013, which is when we ended the brands, because it was just at that point where it was so hard to make money from events in a space like the O2, because, you know, you're booking big headline acts, because at that time we were booking Van Dykes, you know, all these people that aren't cheap. Obviously venue hires, and, you know, unless the break even, for example, on a Slinky gig at the Opera House would be about 1,500 people. Now the place only holds 1,800 if you were booking someone like Paul Van Dyke. So, you know, it was getting to the point where you were putting ridiculous hours into an event, and at the end of it, everyone got paid apart from you. So it was kind of like, you know, something's got to give here. So I actually got an opportunity to work with Simon Rain at Gatecrasher, which at the time sounded like a really good idea, but was probably one of the hardest years of my life, because he took me on to the bookings for the Nottingham venue. So three months in, he decided to close the Nottingham venue. And bearing in mind, obviously, I live in Doncaster. So he said, well, you're going to have to commute to Birmingham now. So I was literally driving to Birmingham every day and back. So, which, you know, in rush hour traffic could be 3.5 hours. You know, I was leaving at like 4:30 in the morning and getting home at like 8-9 o'clock at night. And obviously, you know, he's well documented. He's not the easiest person to work for. And at that time, he'd just bought the Eden venue in Ibiza and was turning it into Gatecrasher Ibiza. So I was involved in obviously getting a lot of the new brands involved, booking all the talent for that, which we did. But basically, it all went tits up, and he closed the venue. And obviously we were left carrying the can, really, and having to have conversations with people that were quite difficult. So at that point, I just said, look, you know, enough's enough. I hadn't got paid at that time for a couple of months, so I just resigned. Eventually did get paid for the money that I was owed, but having to go to court to do so. So that was a really tough time. And then I got a job working at Fresh DJs with Barry Amphlett, which he wanted to expand his roster and on the management side. So this was coming away from being an agent and doing the booking side to actually doing the more the strategy stuff. So managing acts. And at the time, obviously, he was managing Jules and a few other people, but I wanted to take it in a bit more of a different direction. So
he'd obviously got better at what he was doing by then.
Well, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think so. But I wanted to go down more of like a tech house, because obviously at that 2014, that time, that sound was getting really, really big again. So, you know, I signed acts like Max Chapman, Left Wing and Cody, and really developed that roster over the next couple of years. So we got to about 2018, and then I left Fresh to set up my own management company, which the acts came with me, and that's what we've got today, which is LGRP, which is a management company which I co-own with two other guys, a guy called Ross Canavan, who's based in Los Angeles, and a guy called David Bourne, who's based in Manchester. David handles more of the drum and bass side of it. Ross does the more minimal stuff, and now my roster's developed to more of the harder stuff. So I look after people like Shaq, Symmetric, Matty Ralph, Meg McHugh, obviously BK. Obviously, I've been working with Ben for quite some time. So yeah, we've got like 45 acts across the whole roster now, and employ about 10 staff. So it's grown a lot, considering obviously in between all that we had COVID as well, which was an absolute nightmare for the whole industry, because overnight, you know, DJs weren't able to DJ, so to make a living was very, very difficult, which was one of the reasons why I got back involved with Tidy over that time, really. Because
it's good that you've obviously you've still got a strong relationship with Tidy, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for Ammo and Andy and the opportunities they've given me. So we've always been good mates. And when COVID hit, obviously they just launched Tidy Pro, which was their their production tutorial service, really. And they said, look, do you want to come on board and try and help us launch this whilst, you're in between things with COVID? I was like, yeah, great. So got stuck into that, really enjoyed it, started working with BK a lot more. We've become really good mates over that period, and to the point now where obviously manages is because he's had obviously a bit of a resurgence since Hard House has come back these last few years as well. And kind of it was only supposed to be a short-term thing really with Tidy Pro, but probably, and I think I ended up staying about 3.5 years and became the general manager. Became the general manager, got involved in lots of different stuff with the label, the TDV project, trying to, with the connections that I'd got through my own artist management company, bringing in the likes of, Patrick Topping and all these more up and coming and more current artists, shall we say, that are doing really big numbers, getting them involved with the brand. And we had a couple of really, successful events where we've had like old Tidy records remixed by the likes of Patrick Topping and He Eats Everything and Hannah Lane, all these acts that are doing really good stuff at the minute. So that was a good experience. And then, like I say, I think it was probably around this time last year, it was kind of like, right, I think my time's up here. I need to get back involved in my own company a bit more. So I left Tidy this time last year, and have not looked back really. Just like I say, I've got 7 acts on my books now. They're all doing amazing stuff. They're all great lads as well, and lasses, shall I say? And they're just a good bunch of people to work with. And I really enjoy the management side of it. To be honest, it was never something that I had, was in my end game of where I wanted to be. But I guess, like I said to you before, one of my strengths is I'm organised. I know I like to know what I'm doing. And artists these days, they need all the help they can get because obviously they're touring the world and doing all these bits. They haven't got time to do all the back end stuff. I mean, we never really had managers in our day. Only the bigger acts, like maybe like the Oakenfolds of those names, but. Nowadays it's with so much going on and all these acts going all over the world and the social media side and the recording side, you definitely need somebody behind you that's going to be able to handle all that strategy and look at where you're going to be going. And ultimately, when you sign an act these days, it's about where do you want to go to? What's your end game? Who do you want to play for? Where do you want to play? Who's the best agent for you? Because there's so many different factors that are involved in a career these days. It's important to get it right, because if you do sign with the wrong agent or you play for the wrong promoter in the wrong city, it can set you back. So that's part and parcel of what I do. It's all about strategy.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely more involved than when we were doing it. We just
then you get a request and you're like yes and no, and that was it. But and these days, it sounds a bit corny, but it's very, very true. Careers are made from the things that you say no to rather than the things you say yes to, because it's very political these days. A lot of big promoters putting the weight around, and if you're an artist and you want to get a certain goal or you want to align with a certain brand, because more often than not now, it's not just promoters, it's brands that host events and brands that host arenas at festivals. Like back in the day with us, if there wasn't a Tidy arena, we probably wouldn't have got the chance to play. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
similar type of scenario now, but I think record labels these days are becoming less and less prevalent, because the labels used to have the power before, because obviously they had the infrastructure to be able to release the records. Whereas now, I think the pendulum's swinging towards artists, and more artists are releasing their own music because they've already got the fan base themselves. They don't need a label to distribute their music, because they can just set up their own Bandcamp, or they can set up their own label and get somebody to run it for them and release their own music, keep their own masters, and keep all the income from it. So I think that the age where labels have got such a big hold on things is becoming less and less, and that'll definitely be more so over the next few years, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we were there at the kind of the point when, you know, all the file sharing, the MP3s and vinyl died off, but like the sort of the butterfly effect of that is still playing out, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. You know, you've like I said to you before, you know, you could sell 40,000 records and you'd make a really good living out of it. But now you could do 1 million streams and earn about £1,000. And it's not, you know, but 1 million streams doesn't actually sound that much. But in actual fact, if you know, in underground dance music, it's very difficult because unless you're a big artist and have got a big name and you've got good monthly listeners on Spotify, the only way you're going to get big numbers and big streams is by being put onto the editorial playlists. And there you playlists like, you know, your UK house music, Mint, all these ones that are curated by Spotify themselves. So they'll feed these tracks into these playlists, which in turn will then increase your streams. But if you're an up and coming artist and you've only got 10,000 people on Instagram and it's your second release, the likelihood of that record getting into an editorial playlist is very, very small. So straight away, you're releasing music for one reason and one reason only. And it's not for making money. It's all for promotion. So you never, unless you're, you know, you get a number one hit or you get, you know, a track that's going to play on the radio a lot on Radio 1, you're not going to make a massive amount of money out of music. It's part of the pie that you need to, you know, put together to get a career out of it. So,
well, I mean, it's a bit like, I guess, if you know, they said now whether it's, you know, Metallica, like I'm going to see Metallica in Brisbane. I'm taking my eldest Nevaeh, which is something I never thought I'd do. I thought by the time my kids were old enough that Metallica would have packed in, but they're still going. And Nevaeh's 13 and she's fucking like a fully grown woman, so she's coming with me. The little one's not coming; she get trampled. But you know, like they apparently don't make a great deal from their albums, but it's the tours that they do. But obviously, the albums feed the tours, you know, it's the new music to play and it's a reason to be out on tour. And that's, I guess, what we ended up you know, like we were churning tracks out, but it just gave us, you know, like my career was kind of, you know, but people would say to me, oh, do you not come earlier to listen to what everyone else was playing? I used to be like, well, I don't need to, because I'll just play my stuff and no one's playing that. So, you know, that gives you the edge, doesn't it? If you're producing that, you know, you can turn up and just stick something on that everyone goes, oh my God, what's that? Like it's something new I've never heard before.
Well, that's what a lot of like on Saturday I went to Glasgow for Symmetric, who I managed. They had their first headline show in Glasgow, sold 1,000 tickets on their own.
Did you fly or drive?
I went on the train.
Oh, okay, middle ground.
It was the worst mistake I've ever made because my back's killing from it. But they played for 3 hours, and everything that they played was their own, either a remix of something or an original track. And another act, Matty Ralph, who a lot of what he plays, it's all his own stuff. And there's not many these days that, well, there'll be in the occasional track where they'll play somebody else's, but these kids are making that much music that they can go out and that's their brand, that's their identity, that's what people go to watch them for. So it's a similar thing, really.
Well, I guess it is like they are turning into kind of like a band. Like you're going to see Metallica, all the plays Metallica stuff. You know, you see Chili Peppers. I mean, they might do a cover version of some, you know, disco track or something, but you know, they're playing Red Hot Chili Peppers stuff. So I guess like that whole thing of being a DJ, but just playing other people's, like, you know, I think I always kind of felt like that. Like I would probably play 20% other people's stuff and then 80% mine, but that's because I'm egotistical. So that's but yeah, I think that's probably a good thing that's kind of happening. Well, it also means, you know, you don't get that. Sorry,
it's USP though, isn't it? That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
You know, they like your music because your music has got a particular DNA in it that represents you, and that's what people buy into. You know, it's like DJing has moved on from, you know, back in the day where, yes, the DJ would play a lot of other people's music. And there are DJs out there that do that. But what I'm saying, I think now, more so than ever, particularly when you've got places like SoundCloud and the technology involved in, people can write music on their laptops, sat on a train in a couple of hours. It's just a lot easier to be able to do that. And that's just a representation of where the scene's going.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe I came along 20 years too soon.
Maybe so, mate. Maybe so.
No, but then we wouldn't have these stories though if that had happened.
What was the other story you said to me yesterday about? I was telling Sal about it. About the glasses one. That was I totally forgot about that.
So basically, my very first pair of glasses that I ever got, we were in the car driving to, I'm sure it was Southend. I don't know why I remember that, but we were driving to a gig it was a Friday night, and I'd been to the opticians. They'd given me the glasses and they'd said, look, you only need them at night, because they'd said to me, when you're driving at night, do you get the haze in and stuff? And I said yes, and they said, right, when you're driving at night, put your glasses on. So we're driving down to this gig, and I was driving, you're in the passenger seat, and I'm saying, I've just got these glasses, but I'll be wearing them on the way back. And I said to you, because obviously, I could see, like, if I take these glasses off now, I can't see fucking anything. Because you just keep wearing them, don't you? And then you get sort of stuck with them. And I said to you, how bad are your eyes if you take your glasses off? So you took your glasses off, and then I said, what kind of car is that? And you went, what car? And then you said, this Mercedes went flying past, and you went, I can tell that's a BMW. I'm like, mate, put your glasses back on.
Oh, great, mate. Honestly, I've had glasses since I was 3 years old, so I'm literally blind as a bat. So,
well, I always, I used to nickname you Penfold, because your eyes look like, but when you take your glasses off, they're quite small, aren't they?
Yeah, because my eyes are the shape of rugby balls, basically. That's
right.
what, and I've got bad stigmatism, so that's why. That's Penfold. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Penfold.
It was said with love.
Of course it was. Yeah. It would have been, it was taken with love as well.
So what does the future hold? I mean, obviously you've got 3 girls. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
They say it takes a real man to make a girl.
Yes, it does.
I've got 2.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I guess it's just carrying on what I'm doing now, really. To build the business up, we've come a long way in a very short space of time, considering the big blip in the middle with COVID. So, we're growing all the time. We're bringing on new staff all the time. We're bringing on new acts all the time. So, I think the end game for us is to develop the company to a point where I can sell it and retire. That would be lovely. Because going into clubs at our age is especially. I mean, the one we went to in Glasgow was you do feel like you're the oldest person in the room, and most people look at you like you're CID. And they're all like 18 to 24-year-olds, but it's I mean, I don't want to be going into clubs at 60 odd year old. I'd like to retire. Yeah, like Ammo. Yeah, I'd like to have retired by then and being able to put my feet up and start playing golf or something. So that's definitely the end game. But got a few more years yet. I think I've probably got another 10 years, hopefully, before I pack all that in and retire. Okay, that's interesting. Nice.
Yeah. Do you play golf now, or are you waiting to play golf?
I used to play golf when I was a kid, but I haven't got the time now, mate. I haven't got time. I go to the gym twice a week, and what I've started to do this last couple of weeks actually is every lunchtime go for like a 3.5 mile walk, just to get out of the house, because otherwise I can just sit at this desk all day, and before you know it, it's 5-6 o'clock at night, and you've been there all day and not moved. So I'm trying to be a lot more healthy and get my steps in, and obviously, like I say, I go to the gym twice a week and do resistance training and stuff like that. So because about a few years ago, actually through COVID, I had a herniated disc in my back, and I was in absolute agony for about 2 or 3 years, and thankfully they operated on it and removed the disc. But during that time, I'd just piled loads of weight on. I think I was nearly pushing 15 stone at one point. So as soon as I came off, I had the operation, I went straight onto the keto diet and training, and I lost 3.5 stone in a year. So, and I've continued that going. I still do keto now. And like I say, just try and be as healthy as I possibly can. Because at our age, mate, you need to, don't you?
Well, I think I'm clocking in about 16 and a half at the minute, but I'm trying, mate. I'm trying.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I'm like, right, because I remembered all the weights that I used to push just when Bea was born, just before she was born. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to try and get myself stronger than I've ever been. And I managed to beat the bench press by 1 kilo, but doing the squats and the deadlifts, I just like, my missus, she's like, it's taking you 5 minutes to get out of bed in the morning. You know, like this is no good. I'm like fucking creaking around and all my shoulders and my elbows. And then what I'd find is if you did like heavy pressing and golf, that was like if you want to fuck your elbows up, do that heavy bench press and play golf, because it just ruins, or it did for me anyway. And it's real bad. Yeah. So anyway, I was just by chance, I was watching YouTube and this guy came on and I'm listening to him, and it just completely changed the way that I train. So instead of doing like the heavy weights for like low reps, I just went the other way. And then it just started having like a really positive effect, you know, like when you can start to see the changes and stuff. But the problem is for me, I just eat and drink too much, you know, like that's the downside.
I have the occasional cheat day, which is always good, but to be honest, mate, I find it going on the keto stuff, it just makes I sleep better, and I just find I'm a lot more alert.
I've heard that a lot. Yeah.
It was sluggish, whereas before, you know, you'd eating shit and stuff. It catches up with you eventually.
Yeah, definitely. Well, do you play anymore? Or have you sort of done with all that?
Really, I mean, I played at the Tidy.
You did the Weekender,
yeah. But other than that, no. I get quite a few people messaging me and offering, but to be honest, I'm not that fussed. I like to do the odd Tidy gig. I'm doing the one in London at the end of September. And there's another one I think coming up, which I don't think they've announced yet, so I better not mention it. That I'm playing on. But other than that, no. I like I say, on my weekends, I'm either spending it with the wife and kids, or I'm out with my acts once or twice a month, just you know, networking and being around those guys. That's enough for me. It kills me. One night kills me these days, just going out. So
I can imagine. Yeah,
it's I have to be a bit more sensible with it.
Well, it's funny doing the podcast. It's really got me kind of like Matt sat here, like he keeps saying to me, just remember you're a real estate agent. Because I'm like, well, this last few weeks I've done when I went back in September, I did a new track because Vicious Circle's coming up to Vicious Circle 400. Wow, and because obviously I did Vicious Circle 1, so I'm like, right, I'll do a track. And then I thought, I did the A and the B side for 1, so really I should do the B side for it. So we did a virtual. So I sat with Maddox in his studio and did the original, and then we did a virtual session and did the remix, which I think I actually preferred to the original. And then last week I did a remix. Well, I'm not going to say what it is, but I did a remix of one of my sort of more famous compositions. So that's going to be coming out later this year. And then we're putting an album together because there's Ben sent me all the tracks that I'd done, and I'm listening. I'm thinking, fucking hell, I can't even remember this. Yeah, it's bananas. So we put this album, this track list together. It's ended up being 4 discs. It's like 60 tracks. Wow. So that's coming out. And then I've got a gig in Brisbane. I've got a gig in Adelaide. I'm off to Auckland in September. So I'm like, I'll be coming to you for management soon.
No problem, mate. No problem.
You said that now, but when I message you.
The time difference. Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah.
So I missed your email.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, mate, it's been amazing catching up. We had such good times in the back in the day. But yeah,
Very
when I'm back, I'll be coming back to England at some point. So yeah,
Please
if you're
do,
in because I'll be in Sheffield. If you're in Donny, then we're 10 minutes away. So
exactly.
I'll see if we can get Foz out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that'd be great, mate.
Thanks, mate. You're a legend.
No worries. Likewise. Take it easy, pal.
I'll see you soon. Cheers, mate.
Ta-ra.
Take care.
Bye, mate.
This is When I Grow Up with Paul Glazby.